Good evening, everyone. Hello. It's nice to see you out there. Welcome to Hugh Live. Welcome to Hugh Live. Welcome. Hugh Live is FIT's new webcast series. It's a collection of intimate conversations with interesting and important people in fashion, business, and the creative fields, most of whom happen to be FIT alumni. I'm Alex Joseph. I'm the managing editor of FIT's Hugh magazine, and I'm also an alumnus from the MA program in Fashion and Textile Studies, History, Theory, Museum Practice, class of 2015. We are living in a very strange, in fact, unprecedented moment in human history, and it seemed like a good idea for us to bring FIT's extended community together to talk, just to talk and to listen, have a conversation. So that's what these programs were invented for. And I'd like to give a special shout out tonight to the class of 2020. You guys are so awesome. You really prevailed in a really, really tough moment. You guys are amazing. So congratulations. Obviously, this was not the way that you thought the year was going to end, but you should still be very pleased with yourselves because you have a college degree. And that's something to be celebrated. Not everyone gets there. All right, so the evening goes like this. I'll be talking with my guests for about 35 minutes or so, and you can put your questions in the chat. I see that some people are already here and have already said hello. Thank you. Hi, Deborah Peyton-Jones. Our handles will also be in the chat, so please remember to tag hashtag FIT alumni in your posts. That would be great. Okay. So our guest tonight is Elise Doganieri, the co-creator and co-executive producer of The Amazing Race, the reality TV show competition on CBS. The Amazing Race first aired on the seemingly inauspicious date of September 5, 2001. But guess what? The show is still around and only recently hit a little snag when the coronavirus made it difficult to complete filming the 33rd season. We'll talk more about that in a moment. The show has won 13 primetime Emmys, and somewhere along in that 19-year journey between then and now, it went from being an ordinary show to being an American institution, and there are now 14 franchise versions of it in other countries, so that is amazing too. Ms. Doganieri, who has told me I can call her Elise, is very involved in every aspect of the show. She and her husband own a production company that also creates other shows, including a new collaboration with National Geographic, Race to the Center of the Earth, and 2, count them, shows for Disney+. So among other things, perhaps Elise can tell us how she manages to find time to sleep when she's doing all of that. Good evening, Elise. Thank you so much for coming on Hugh Live. How are you doing?
I'm great, Alex. Thank you for having me. This is really a special treat, a special honor.
Oh, we're thrilled to have you. That's awesome. Say it again?
I was going to say I graduated from FIT in 1990, and it's always held a very special place in my heart. It's what's got me where I am today.
And your major was advertising design, correct?
Yes, I did the bachelor degree in advertising.
Awesome. Awesome. So I thought maybe you could start by telling us, I mean, these shows that you do are really global. Like they're from all corners of the world. You're filming all over the world. So obviously that's been very restricted. And you told me that you've been making some really kind of fascinating adjustments to the way the shows are being done. Can you tell us a little bit about how you're doing that?
Yeah, so one of the shows that you did mention, Race to the Center of the Earth, we're doing that for National Geographic. We were filming in October before all this happened with the coronavirus. So we started editing. It's still continuing, but what we had to do, since we're all sheltering in place and the offices are shut down, all of our editors are at home. All the Avid and editing bays are in their homes. We had to do a quick change and get everybody home. And so we've been editing that show remotely, which basically means the editors, put a link up, we watch the show, we send our notes, we do Zoom meetings, with the network and with our editors. And we just kind of go back and forth like that. And that's been working out pretty well. We're going to be airing that show in December. It did take some adjusting, but, you know, we have to make it happen.
I'm sure. I'm sure. Did you say that you sent some of the participants videos to video cameras to film certain aspects of the show?
So the Race to the Center of the Earth was completely filmed, but some pickups, we call them. So what's happening is we're sending them cameras. We are going to go onto Zoom, and then we're going to direct them, because we're going to be able to see them, like where they're setting the shot up, where the angle, and then we're going to be able to ask them questions in relationship to the show, and they're just going to have to answer them, and then they'll send back the media, and we'll put it into our system, and voila, it will be online, and we'll have it for the show. So yeah, we're making lots of adjustments like that.
But at least you're still able to work. That's good for the time being. And so tell me a little bit about the Race to the Center of the Earth. There are teams of 4 people, is that correct?
Teams of 3. So we
sorry.
have 4 teams of 3 people racing from 4 corners of the Earth, all converging on one location where there's $1 million floating in the ocean in a buoy. Starting in places, you know, that have, you know, Arctic weather, glaciers. Other teams are in very remote places in the jungle. So they're all experiencing different types of cultures, different types of terrain, climate, but they're all going to wind up in one place. That was a very adventurous show, probably one of the biggest shows that we've tried to or did produce, because we filmed simultaneously in 4 different climates in 4 different time zones and had them all racing.
Wow. So go ahead.
I was going to say, with The Amazing Race, we were filming our 33rd season while all this stuff with the coronavirus was happening, and we were on our 3rd episode. We were in Europe, and we basically had to we made the decision that it wasn't safe to continue, and the network really supported us, and we brought it. It was a very trying time at the end of February.
I mean, the show has been on for 20 years. You've never had an experience like this before, so.
Well, this is a very unusual time. I don't think I've ever experienced anything like this. Everything is new for all of us. As far as production goes, most of our shows are filmed outside of the country, or they're not in LA. We're not studio based. All of our shows are outside, outdoors. They're big adventure shows. So we've been very fortunate for the last 32 seasons to travel the way that we do travel, go from country to country, catch flights, catch trains. You know, there have been some bumps along the way where flights are missed and things happen, weather, but nothing like this where there's been a real health scare that, you know, can endanger people's lives if they catch it. So.
You know, I'm so fascinated with The Amazing Race. I think it's so interesting that after 19 years, most TV shows just don't last that long. Why do you think the show has so much appeals so much to people?
I think one of the things I think really appeals to people is the element of adventure and travel and the unknown. And a lot of the places that we go on the Amazing Race, some of them people will go to and we know about them, and it's, oh, I went to Europe, I went to Mexico. But we also go to these really unique places like Mongolia and Vietnam and Laos and Namibia and Botswana. So we really like to take the viewer on a cultural journey, on an adventure along with the contestants, and show them places that they may never have thought of going to. Like Iceland. I was so amazed the first time that I flew to Iceland from New York. I was shocked that it was about a 4.5-hour flight from JFK. Before I went, I thought, Iceland sounds like it's on Mars. It sounds really far away. But you can hop on a flight in the evening and be there in the morning and, you know, be in Reykjavik for lunch. It's, you know, the world has become so much smaller because we have all these incredible flights to go to these remote places and these exotic places. So we've been very fortunate with the race to be able to travel to, you know, nearly 100 countries.
There's a rumor that the genesis of this show is a backpacking trip that you took through Europe with your FIT roommate. Now, is this true?
It is 100% true.
Oh.
When I was at FIT, I had a roommate named Lori Casey, and we decided when we graduated in 1990 that, I asked my parents for a round trip ticket to Europe. So the two of us got these crazy backpacks with these giant wire frames. We filled them up to the rim, and we took a Let's Go Europe book. We got a rail pass, and I had $1,000 for about 5 weeks. And we flew to Madrid, and we just roughed it the whole way. And we met amazing people. We met friends that we still are friends with. We stayed in hostels. We took the train everywhere. And that was the inspiration for The Amazing Race. When, that was a very pivotal trip for me. I'd never been out of the country. I was working in advertising when I graduated FIT, but I met Bertram Van Munster, who is now my husband, and he was working in television. And he had just come home from something called MIPCOM, which is an event in France every year where they announce the new shows and they sell formats. And he came home and I said, well, what's new in television? He's like, I don't know. People in television, why can't they come up with something good? He's like, well, you think it's so easy? Why don't you come up with something if you think it's so easy? Because I challenge you, I give you 5 minutes. And I said, no, I don't need 5 minutes. I have an idea. And I had the idea of taking people around the world on a journey like I backpack with very little money. You don't speak the language. You're going to, do things with the locals. You're just going to be out of your comfort zone because there's so many amazing things that people do around the world that as Americans we don't do here. The types of jobs we have, the types of foods we eat, the way we live, our architecture, history, so much. And so I said, I'm going to write up this concept. We'll put two people together that know each other because my very good friend Lori and I, 2.5 weeks into our trip, we had a huge fight in Italy because I was the type of person that wanted to get up early every day. And she woke up and she was just, I was like, we gotta go. We're meeting some friends that we met on the train. And she's like, this is not Chevy Chase's European vacation. You go do what you want today. And so we were like, I was like, oh my God. So we split up for the day and we met back for dinner. We just needed a little time away from each other. So with The Amazing Race, when you put two people who know each other together and you put them in a very stressful travel situation where they're driving and they're catching flights and they've got to go. It's 12 one-hour episodes we film in about 22 days. It's nonstop. You are going to have drama. And so that was the genesis of the show and the challenge for my husband. And, back to your first question, I think people love to watch the show because they can relate to it. They can see themselves in the characters that are on the show. And especially 21 to 65. We tried to have all ages, cousins, aunts, uncles, people in relationships. So it's very relatable. And, you kind of live vicariously through these characters going on this incredible journey.
I have a quick question. Did you grow up in New York? How did you end up at FAT?
So I grew up on Long Island in Port Jefferson, and I was obsessed with New York City. And for my birthday when I turned 12, I asked my parents to take me to the Twin Towers, and I just wanted to live in the city. I knew I wanted to be doing something creative, maybe architecture, advertising. And I toured FIT, and I absolutely knew that I wanted to be there. I wanted to live on campus. I wanted to go to school in the city. And I remember I actually applied to FIT in 1985. And when I brought my portfolio, Eli Kintz was the person who looked at my portfolio. And I think he's still teaching at FIT. And
he is. My
portfolio was not up to par. And I was devastated. I did not get into FIT the first time I applied. And it broke my heart, but it also lit a fire, and I was like, there is no way I am, going to accept no for an answer. So I worked really hard on my portfolio for the next several months, and I reapplied, and I got in, and I was like, I wonder if I'll ever see Eli Kintz again. And my first class I walked into in my first semester was typography with Eli Kintz, and I thought, oh my God. And then I was like, you know what? I am going to prove to him that he made a mistake that first time I applied to school, and I got an A in his class.
That's awesome.
We became very close. Yeah, doesn't accept mediocrity. He wants to push you to be your very best, and I've kind of taken that way of thinking throughout my entire career. You don't settle, and if you want to succeed, and if you want to make a name for yourself, and if you want to do something different, you just got to really push. And it's not comfortable, and there's going to be heartache and tears, but sometimes if you keep pushing, you can get there. And so just don't give up. So I love you, Eli Kintz, if you're out there listening. Thank you for me.
I emailed him, and he said he would watch, but I don't know if he's out. I can't see the list, but he may be out there. By the way, also, I think your classmate Billy Tucci, I think he's the artist, has written "Hello, Elise," so he's paying attention.
Billy. I love Billy, and I have known each other since FIT, and we've stayed very good friends through the years. And his comic, She, and all the other books he's written, comics he's written. He's incredible. He's an incredible artist.
Yeah, he's very talented. Can you tell me a little bit about how you went from, once you graduated, you did some very good graphic design jobs.
Yes.
Tell me about what it was. Tell me how you got to do television.
So I actually had an internship in my senior year at FIT, and I got, it was at a place called Fiorentino and Associates. It was a graphic design firm, and I worked there for quite a while, and it was graphic design. I really wanted to get into advertising. So I started freelancing at Chiat Day, at Kirschenbaum and Bond, when they had the Snapple commercials. And also Chiat Day was super hot at the time.
Elise, I think you're muted. Sorry, I'm not sure how that happened, but.
Let me.
Oh, there we go.
Are you back?
Yep, I think so.
So I don't know where I left you, but I worked in a bunch of advertising places, freelance, all the big agencies in New York. And then a couple friends of mine and I wanted to start a kind of a graphic design studio, but a place also where people could rent computers. At the time, in 1992, computers were really expensive to own. So we opened up a place called Open Eye Media in Tribeca on Franklin Street. And we would rent computer time. We would design brochures. I taught Photoshop classes. I taught Illustrator and Quark. And we did interactive CD-ROMs. We designed web pages. So we started that company. And we had this beautiful retail space on Franklin Street, paintings on the walls. And we would have gallery opens for people who couldn't get into the really hot galleries in Soho. And so this is a little bit of a long story. There was a film crew filming on Franklin Street, and a gentleman came in and said, can I use one of these paintings for a scene we're shooting? I need somebody to carry one of those large paintings across the street. And I said, well, you'd have to pay for it or rent it. And he's like, I don't have the money in my budget. It turns out this was my eventual husband, Bertram Van Munster. So he was filming on Franklin, and even though I did not give him the painting, he asked me to dinner. And we had dinner that night. He lived in Los Angeles, and we started dating for about two and a half years, long distance. Eventually, I sold my partnership in my company in New York at Open Eye Media, and I moved to LA. And I was freelancing there, and I got a job at Ogilvy and Mather, and I was really happy. And I was starting to see what my husband was doing. He had just sold a show called Wild Things. He was traveling all over the world. He was going to Africa and Asia, and he was, doing these exotic shows with animals and scientists. And I was like, you know what? I really want to do that. So I did one episode with him where we filmed a show, one of his shows up in Alaska. And I just kind of caught the TV bug, but it's not a job that you can just jump in and start doing. You have to, have to go through the ropes. So around that time is when I came up with The Amazing Race. It was early 1999, beginning of 2000. And when we sold the show, I said, well, am I going to be, I get the co-creator, but I also want to be the executive producer. And he said, well, the network will never approve that. You have to start as a I've had every single job in production. I've worked my way up through the ranks. So, the Emmys that I have won, I have different positions on those, different titles. Some are supervising producer, senior producer. But I wasn't happy about it at the time. But to be honest, if I did not do that and I was just handed a title, I really wouldn't know what I know now. And I wouldn't be able to produce a show from the ground up, because that's what I do in my company. I develop ideas, we create them, we create the format, we pitch them, and then, when we sell them, I can produce them. I know how to make a budget. I know how to do pre-production. I know how to work with the editors and story producers. So it was a long learning process, but well worth it. Another great learning experience. And I've been very, very fortunate. It's very unusual to have a show that's been on the air for so long. And, somebody said to me, I think the reason, because I hadn't really worked a lot in television and I didn't have any boundaries of what could be done, because anybody who knows television would know the show like this is giant. It's a logistical nightmare to produce. And so, I just had an open mind about it. So that is the roundabout how I got into television. So I miss advertising. I loved it when I did it. It was something that I had wanted to do since I was very young. And my time at FIT was so incredible. And I made so many wonderful friends and so many great experiences. That's what brought me to where I am now. It's all connected.
Well, your title is a co-executive producer, but I understand you are very involved in this show. So tell me a little bit about, like, people that maybe if they don't know, the show is about people from, they're pairs of people, and they have to get around the world, and they have challenges to do and so forth. So what is your role? You're very involved, I understand. Tell me about it.
I am an executive producer, so co-executive, and then I became an executive producer probably for the last 10 years. But so I'm very involved, very hands-on. I'm involved from the casting. The casting is one of the first things that gets done. While the casting is being done, Bertram and I start looking at the world, looking at maps and travel, and think about, where do we want to go? Where have we been? What places give us great story? So we start to lay out the route together, and it has to work financially and logistically and creatively. All those have to come together. So what will happen is we start picking locations. We'll talk to CBS, and they, say, oh yeah, we love that you want to go to Mongolia. We love that you want to go to, South Africa, whatever it might be. Try to pick places that have cold climates mixed, then we'll see them in a hot climate. So we really like to mix up the environments on the show during the season. And Bertram and I start scouting. Bertram gets on a plane and starts scouting some locations, and I start scouting with producers, and we meet up with local facilitators. So if we're flying to, Europe, we have local facilitators that we've known now for almost 20 years. In any place that we want to film in around the world, we have contacts. You want to go to England, you want to go to France or Italy, you want to go to China, you want to go to Japan. We have contacts everywhere, and they've become like family to us. If they come to LA, they'll come stay with us. If we go there, we go visit them. So it's become like a global family. It's been really a wonderful experience. So we'll scout, we come up with all the ideas. We have a research team in the office that will give us some ideas of places to go, things to see. We try to do something funny that have worked well. And we also like to come up with some new stuff. And then when we get back, we start to lay out each episode. And every episode, there's something called a detour. where two teammates have to do it together, and then there's a roadblock where only one person has to decide who does it. And at the end of every episode, they have to race to the host, to Phil Kogan, and step on a mat, and you just can't be the last team. If you're the last team, you're eliminated. In the end, the last episode, the final episode, is the first team to reach Phil on the mat and win $1 million. And I'm on the road while we're filming too. I go on every season. There was one season I couldn't go, which was season 13. I was pregnant with my daughter. It's fine when you're 7 months pregnant. It's just not smart. And so not when you're like really giant and you're going to be on the road for a month. So, and then I'm involved in all the editing and in every apps.
So I heard that there's a challenge department. Is this true?
Yes.
They work together to come up with these really difficult challenges.
So we have an incredible team of people. We have amazing cameramen and women. We have amazing sound men and women. We have a challenge department. We have an art department. We have a story department. We have editors. We have producers. We have field producers, story producers. We also have a security safety team. But just to talk about our challenge department, it's made up of a team of 3. And when we come back from being on the road and we've scouted and we say, okay, we found this incredible location where they, you know, whatever, they might ice skate, or they make these funny chocolate souffles, or they bake cakes, or they build things. And then it's up to the challenge team to come up with a task. What are they going to do there? Okay, make 50 chocolate. You know, when you're going into a restaurant in China, you have to, you know, take the orders from the patrons sitting in the restaurant in Chinese and tell the chef what they want and see if the plate comes out right. So the challenge department comes up with the rules, and then they are on the road with us judging the contestants alongside the locals, who are also looking, making sure things are done the way that the locals do it, but making sure that everything is fair. And they work alongside our art department team, who builds things and sets up the location. So if we need 10 of something or 5 of something, we need little booties if they're going in the water, or swim goggles, or if we're doing something where we're putting things under the water, challenge and art will place the items in whatever box or thing that we're hiding in the ocean, and they have got to use maybe a metal detector, but they set up the locations. And this is such a crucial, important job is missing from anything that these contestants have to do. It's on us, because it's a competition for $1 million, and someone will say, well, I didn't have 6 pieces in my little bag or my box. So things are checked. We're incredibly obsessive compulsive. We're OCD on these things. We read the clues 3 and 4 times before we actually put them in the envelopes, before we seal them. We check everything, make sure it's in place. So it's a lot of checks and balances. And the team that we have, a lot of people have been working on the show for a long time. So there's a shorthand that we have with each other. Incredible camaraderie. And like I said, we're like family because we spend a lot of time together. We've missed a lot of birthdays and holidays at home because we're on the road together. So there's a lot of sacrifice.
Yeah.
So you better know the people you work with too.
Elise, I have to tell you, like, I've watched the show a few times, and sometimes I'm really concerned about that. I'm worried for the contestants. There was one episode where they had to jump off of a building and slide 18 floors down like a wire into a pool, and I was like, no, I'm not doing that. No. I mean,
I think that was season 5. I think that was in Uruguay. I think I know, 'cause I tested it. And to be honest, I tested a lot of these challenges because if I can, anybody can do it. Yes, look, the things that we do, some of them are inherently dangerous, but we put everything in place to make sure that it is as safe as humanly possible. We hire the best riggers, we hire the best of the best. We fly them from the US to locations to check and make sure all the ropes are new. Everything, every little carabiner is locked, and they have to have 100% safety record. If they have any issues in their background, or if anything has ever happened, we don't work with them. But there are things like skydiving. We've done a bunch of skydiving on this show. That is something that, we do our check. We make sure that the plane's insured, that the pilot, everybody is qualified, that they have all their certifications, that their insurance is in place, that they have no accidents. But you are still jumping out of a plane with a parachute on. There is a false sense of safety when people are on The Amazing Race, that they think, oh, I'm just going to jump off. I find it amazing how people now just jump off things. You are still jumping off of a building. You have a rope attached to your body. Please don't be so sure to just jump off without thinking about it, and they don't have to do it. There will be a penalty, a time penalty, but um, we put everything in place to make sure that they're safe. And on top of that, and I mentioned a little earlier, we do have a security team that travels with us, and we have one ahead rides in the middle, and they are with our entire production and all the contestants. So we are very safe and secure while we're on the road.
I've read somewhere that 70 to 80 people are with the group at any given time. Does that sound right? So that's a large group to travel with.
Yeah, that's our core group from the office in LA, and that includes challenge, story, art department, producers, field producers. And then when we're on the road, we hire locally a total of about 2,000 people to work on the show. So when we fly to, Germany or Tokyo, we have drivers, we have translators, we have a local production team that are location people, camera crews. We hire local also. We bring our team, but we also have local, we call them zone cameras, that are in position in different locations. And then, there could be a dancing troupe that can test what they're doing. So musicians, singers, actors, dancers, everywhere. We're everywhere. It's been really interesting because we do have a bunch of formats that film all at the same time. We might be filming while the Canadian version is filming or the Australian version is filming. And there was one season where we literally crossed paths in New Zealand with another show that was, I think it was the Asian version. I see a cameraman that we used to work with. We're all waving at each other. The contestants are running past each other, backpacks, envelopes. We're like, wait a minute. So just that has happened.
A new kind of challenge, maybe. Like figure out who's in which team.
Where? Yeah. Australia, Canada, Israel.
So I understand that there's always the camera person has to be within 20 feet of the contestants at all times or something like that.
You have done your homework. If you are not within 20 feet of your camera crew, you are not going to be able to be filmed. And we're making a TV show. Ultimately, we're making a TV show. So you can't, when you're with your teammate, you have to stay within 20 feet of your camera crew. So teams run, and our crews are super, super fit. I mean, I would challenge anyone to try to race down one of our camera crews. These people are strong, 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 and they train before they go on the road. So they know that we're going to be filming in November or June. They start training months in advance because they're running around with a camera on their shoulder. And the sound people have these very heavy belts that have batteries, backpacks with batteries. And then, they're sleeping in trains and planes just like the contestants. We always say to the contestants, imagine that the crew are your children. You don't leave them behind.
Okay.
And to keep it fresh, to keep it fair, we do switch out the crews. So every time they check in at the end of an episode, there's another camera crew that will work with them for the next leg of the race.
Okay. Have you ever had a surprise around, it sounds really meticulously plotted out, but have you ever gone to a country and suddenly there's a dictator in charge and you have to jump ship?
We've had some situations where it's felt a little uncomfortable that everything was perfectly safe before we left on the road, that we've now got to get out, or not that we've got to get out, but security is calling on local security to give us a little bit extra cushion. Mostly it's been weather. I remember first season we were in Tunisia, a very first season, before cell phones. We were working on sat phones and looking for cloud clearance so we could get a signal and speak to each other. We had the contestants go out to this campsite in the desert. and a sandstorm whipped up, and we had camels, we had vehicles, we had musicians, we had belly dancers, we had everybody. We had a whole big fun event happening. And at about 2 in the morning, we had to put everybody in vehicles, and we literally caravanned at 10 miles an hour out of the desert back into the city because it wasn't safe. The tents all blew away. It was mayhem. So we've had a few situations like that. We had a situation also where there was a monsoon that blew out a whole location. Um, and here's the thing. People always ask this question: do you change challenges while you're on the road? Do you change things? No, everything is set in stone before we leave. CBS Legal reads our clues. They check out all the locations. They know exactly what we're going to be doing, where we're going to be doing it, and when. But we have moments where we had a monsoon. It flooded a river, and we couldn't get across this with these boats that we were supposed to go on. So we had to adjust the clue. We still kind of did the same type of a task, but we did make an adjustment. Honestly, that has happened maybe 4 or 5 times in all these seasons. So, we look for those weather patterns. Are we going to go to Thailand during the rainy season? No, we're not going to do that. We plot things out very meticulously.
So this particular snag with COVID is really completely. Is there? Someone asked actually. Are there plans to continue? There is a plan to continue filming 33, right? You just kind of put a pause on it, but
we put a pause on it. It was very sad to do this. We've never had to do it before. We stopped everyone down. We got everyone together, and we told them what was happening. And in the long run, I know that they were grateful that we didn't let them continue on, because we were actually going to be moving on to places that the numbers were starting to show up and rise. It wasn't just in China anymore. So we flew everybody home, and everybody wants to come back and wants to continue. So we are going to continue filming season 33. As soon as everything settles down, as soon as it's safe for us to go back out there. We have everything in place. Everybody's ready and waiting. All the creative is put together. The contestants are ready. So yes, that is definitely going to happen. Yes.
Good.
Yes.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
You had said actually that because the show's been filmed over 20 years, that the show is a kind of time capsule, which I think is really fascinating. I mean, obviously, when you started in 2001, there was no Facebook, there was no Instagram.
Right.
So what's it been like to sort of think about the show in that way?
If you go back and we look at the previous seasons, we were using different cameras that the quality was not as good. We're shooting in 4K right now, and before we had this video, I look back at season 1, 2, and 3, and it's blurry, it's grainy. Like season 1, the Twin Towers, we were filming in New York City. The Twin Towers were still up. There have been so many changes. Just, when I was scouting in the early 2000s, I would go to Vietnam or more, remote places in China. And, I'd feel very remote. I was in Mongolia, and I would feel out there. We'd be like out in the bush or, out on the plains. But now you see Starbucks and McDonald's. The world is getting smaller and smaller. So it's harder and harder to find those those pristine places where the culture is 100% intact, and the people, and I love to go to places like that. But the world is changing, and like you said, there were no cell phones when we first started. We were using satellite phones. I would take pictures on location, and I'd have a dial-up, and I could send one photograph. Now we use WhatsApp. I can find our whole crew uses WhatsApp. I know exactly where all the contestants are. We can send a video, we can send a picture in a second. And just getting around, the contestants are not allowed to use GPS, but we can use it. And just there's more flights, there's more people. Places have changed, buildings have been built. When we used to go to Dubai, the Burj had not been built yet, the tallest building. So over the years, it is a time capsule. What we've got in season 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 is very different what we've got in the later seasons in the 20s and up to season 32. Dubai has changed completely. From the old town, it's all modern and very Many places. You know, when I first went to Beijing, people weren't really even driving cars. It was mostly bicycles. Now cars and traffic jams, it has changed. The world has changed.
So the show is a record of all of those changes in a way.
Yes, yes.
I have a question. I mean, as I've been watching the show, I was, and I have not watched all of it, but I was thinking about how you have watched over 20 years a huge swath of humankind go through extremely stressful situations. And I just wondered if over the years, if you've noticed patterns in human nature. How are people successful? How are couples successful? What have you noticed over time in terms of patterns of human behavior?
What I've noticed, if you are a person that is flexible, meaning mentally flexible, and you are with your partner and one of you wants to go left, the other wants to go right, don't have a huge, big explosion fight over it. Sort it out, pros and cons. The people that do really well on the show, they tend to be able to navigate frustrating and difficult situations well together, and they can make decisions and support each other, even if that decision may not have been the best decision. And it's kind of supporting your teammate through all the trials and tribulations of being on the road. And that has been something I've seen people do really well with. And the other thing I notice people do really well when they just try to have a little bit of fun and they take a moment to take in the beauty of where they are, the beauty of the people that they're meeting in this different place, different culture, language. It's, it's a play, it is a race and you're racing for a lot of money and it goes by quick. But if you can take a moment to talk to a child that's at a location that might be dancing or singing, doing a task with you, and just take it in and say hello and talk and be friendly, you'll get a lot further. You'll feel so good about yourself. They'll feel good about meeting you. Just show love around the world. That's all that people want. People want to be acknowledged. People want to be listened to and heard. If you can do that with your partner and all the people that you meet, you'll be much happier, and the world will be a happier place. Find the beauty in everything. I find everywhere I go. I love to travel. I can make friends everywhere. We're all human beings. We all have wants and needs, and we're really not that different. We want to be loved. We want to be heard and respected.
I feel like I'm starting to see where this idea for this show came from in you, at least. I think I sort of starting to see that angle. People are asking questions, and I hope we'll get more of them. One person wrote, "What's your favorite country the Amazing Race has gone to?"
I will tell you, someplace that surprised me was Vietnam. Vietnam is one of the most beautiful countries I've gone to, and I, you know, I my uncle was in the Vietnam War, so I'd heard a lot about the war and things like that. And I was a little hesitant when I first went there. And then I was so welcomed, and the people were so wonderful and friendly, and the country is gorgeous. There are places that have palm trees and white sandy beaches. So it was very enlightening for me to go. And we had a contestant at one time who was in the Vietnam War, who cried when he went there and has gone back because he saw a whole other side. So I would say I really love going to the Asian countries. I really love going to Beijing and Shanghai, that Xi'an, which I don't know, just places with deep, deep history, seeing the Great Wall of China, going to India also. I love going to India to see the Taj Mahal and stand in front of it. It's just awe-inspiring. Um, Look, I'm of Italian background, so I love going to Italy. I have to plug Italy. Food, the history, the architecture, the fashion. I mean, they have everything. As far as places that are unique, I love going to Africa, Zanzibar, um, uh, anywhere in Africa to see the wildlife, because it's such a precious place, and I hope that we can keep all these beautiful animals alive, just to see the big five. And, you know, I don't know, just hearing the languages. I I love Morocco. I had a very crazy experience in Morocco. Morocco is one of my favorite places, going to Marrakesh and going over the Atlas Mountains to Ouarzazate. Um, on 9/11, I was actually scouting in Marrakesh, and it was about 3 o'clock, and I think it was about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I got the call from home and said, go back to your hotel room. And all my family's in New York. I have family living in Manhattan. And I actually was in the Twin Towers in 1993 when the bomb went off. I was actually in the lobby at a ticket counter. Very scary, but thank goodness I was able to get out very quickly. So I have a big history with the Twin Towers, and I actually lost I think a lot of us have. I lost some friends that were there working. So that was a very scary time on 9/11 and trying to get home. I know I'm kind of going off, but Marrakesh is a special place. I would put that at the top of my list as a place for recommending to recommend people to go see. It's beautiful. Yeah.
And actually, someone asked a sort of related question. It seems like, where's the first place you'd like to travel when the crisis subsides?
That's a good question. My husband has a lot of family in Holland and Amsterdam, and I think that's one of the first places we want to go visit them because we're really missing them. I probably will stop in New York, get my dad and get my sister, and take them to Holland and go together as a family. I just want to be with my family. So I think to get to Holland, because they're the furthest away from us right now, would be really important.
Someone asked, first of all, Deborah Payton Jones says that was a beautiful story about Vietnam. She really liked that story. How did you choose Phil Kogan to be the host?
There are many stories that have been out there, but I will tell you, I was sitting in an Avid Bay looking at VHS tapes of potential hosts, and at the time, if anybody still remembers what VHS was, we didn't know if we wanted a female, a male, or maybe two people. We didn't know if we needed to like leapfrog them, like one would be in one country and one would be in the next. And I saw, oh God, I don't know, maybe 100 tapes of different people. And they were news journalists, different people from different walks of life. And nothing really stood out to me. And our executive in charge of production, Terry Castagnola, said, I've got this tape of somebody that I've worked with before. I think you should take a look. So I put the tape in, and I looked at Phil and I was like, he is the one. It was, it was something about, he had done a lot of travel shows in the past. He was from New Zealand. He had a great accent, and he was an adventurer. He does live his life traveling and being an lover of adventure, lover of the world, traveler of the world. And it just felt like he just seemed like a really good person, a really nice person, easy to talk to. And I think that's what we wanted for our contestants. Somebody that would be there to greet them at the end of the day, that they could kind of say, oh, there's Phil. Thank God. Yeah, I made it, So it just felt right. And then Bertram saw the tape. He fell in love also. And the network agreed. And he was our host. It was.
Yeah, he seems like a very level-headed, calm, centered kind of dude.
Absolutely. All those things. What you see on camera is in real life. He's a very good friend of ours. It has been 20 years. I was kind of seeing Phil grow up on the show too. I look back and think, wow, we've all grown up on the show.
That's awesome. Just someone named Bill Bartek is saying hello. Bill and Joe, he's saying hi.
Season one.
Huh?
Bill and Joe were on season 1 of The Amazing Race.
Oh, cool.
Something very special about the cast from season 1, because we were all doing it for the first time. So that is a bond that goes beyond. We are like a family, we've known each other for so many years now.
Wow. A woman's asking, hello, love the show. How complicated is it to book and organize the locations and activities?
Okay.
And how are the locations chosen?
Okay, excellent question. First thing we do before we book to get visas for a lot of these countries, and different countries take many, many weeks, and some are quicker than others. So if we wanted to go to India and film in India, those visas can take up to 10 weeks. So we have to kind of lock the route early because we take the entire cruise passports and we take the entire cast passports and we have to send those to the embassies and we have to get the visas. And then we get extra visas to throw the contestants off because we don't want them to see, oh, are we going there? Are we going there? So that's the first thing we do. And then locking down locations, it really depends. Some locations that are public parks and locations like that can take a little bit longer because there might be a festival, there might be a concert. And so you just, luckily we've found really wonderful people around the world, our facilitators, our location managers that know us and know the show. And when people find out that The Amazing Race is coming, they get super excited because it really is a 1 hour commercial for your country. You know,
True.
in the beginning, not so easy. In the beginning, it was like, what do you want to do? What? You want to do what? Where? And they were like, no, we're not going to let you do that. And as the show, became more popular and known, we've been invited to come to places. But the permits can take weeks and weeks and weeks, and they cost money. And it's a process. It's a process that is handled by our producers, working very closely with our local facilitators.
Someone is asking, given that the show is dependent on nature, is there a consideration for sustainability when you're filming?
Are you talking with giving back to the communities?
I'm not sure. Maybe they're talking about the air travel. I'm not sure. Maybe other things around getting
So
there.
one thing I will tell you that I'm so proud of, and I see Eli Kins just wrote a note. Hi, Eli, there. Thank you for the note. Thank you. Something that we do that may not always be so obvious on television, we do give back to the local communities in the places that we've been. We did a task in Ethiopia where the contestants had to mud the huts, and this is how they build some of the local villagers build their huts. They mud the walls. We actually had the contestants do that, and then we put thatched roofs on top of their homes for them, and we gave them to them. We built them and gave them to them. We built desks and we built fixed school rooms in local schools in Africa. We've donated to orphanages. We actually incorporated some of the things that the contestants do as part of what they're giving back. We've built fishing structures in fishing villages in Vietnam and given them to the community. The tsunami hit Sri Lanka. We went back to the city that we were in and rebuilt some homes for the people that were living there whose homes were destroyed that worked on the show. So we do things like that. We leave a very small footprint. Yes, we do fly around the world. That is a big one. But when we're in each country, we have a cameraman running with each contestant. There aren't these big honey wagons and lights and trucks. They're running with a camera crew up and down the streets, up and down mountains. We really are a small footprint. People think that when we show up, we set up camp and there are tents and food and, no, every single person that works on the show is working. There's no extra people hanging around. It is compact and we always leave the place the way we found it.
Good. All right. Okay. We have Mary Jo and Donna Bednar want to say hello, and they can't wait. So, are these contestants on season 32?
They were not contestants, but they are our biggest fans. They are the loveliest. They're sisters, and they send us cookies every year to our production office, and they send cards. They have been our biggest supporters and promoters. So, hello. Thank you.
Someone said, would you ever do an elimination at the starting line again? He says, I still have nightmares about that.
I don't know if this is a contestant on season 33, but I I don't care for that so much, to be honest, because we lost a really good team right off the bat. I mean, they didn't leave the country. So, it's kind of until we realized we lost somebody that we really liked. And so, no, it's really hard to say goodbye and eliminate people. So I don't think we'll be doing that anytime soon, as long as I'm saying it anyway.
I can answer one of these questions. Someone asked if the show is premiering tonight. No, the show does not premiere tonight. When does it premiere, actually? Season 32 starts when?
We just found out from CBS that we're going to premiere in the fall it's going to be Wednesdays at 9, but we don't have a date yet. But I'm hearing it's going to be on after Survivor.
Okay. All right.
That's as close as I can get.
Okay. All right.
It's ready to go. It's in the can. It just
Good.
needs to be broadcast.
That's good. Well, that's good. Awesome. Someone asked us, has your daughter gotten the travel bug?
Yes, that's from Christine Pendergast. She was my PE teacher and my hockey coach in high school. Hi. My daughter does have taken her to a couple finale locations. We can't take her on the road because we moved too quickly, and she would also need to get some shots. She's 11 now. But she has gotten the travel bug, and she is so well behaved since she was a baby on the planes. She's a joy to travel with. Yes.
I actually have to start winding down, but let me ask this one more question. Starting with your initial backpack tour with your college roommate, what time of year is your favorite? This is Deborah Payton Jones.
Oh, my favorite time of year is springtime. I don't know. I love spring and summer. I've been in many locations standing out in the cold and rain in the middle of winter up in Norway, and I'm more a warm weather person.
Okay.
I'll tell a funny story about warm weather, though. We were filming season 5 at the pyramids in Cairo, and the contestants were taking 2 or 3 times longer than they were supposed to. We were all out there starving. And someone said, I'm going to order us pizza. And I was like, how do you get pizza out to the pyramids? And about an hour and a half later, someone showed up on horseback with Domino's pizza to the pyramids. That was one of the most exciting things I've ever seen. But we were hungry and we were very happy.
That's amazing. Yeah. That's amazing. I'm going to ask one more question and then I think we're going to close up. But I want to know how you choose the contestants. Like, I know people who want to be on the show. So how do you guys choose them?
Okay. Well, you have to apply. And, really, we need 2 people that have big personalities. So you might have a best friend. You might be like the outgoing one, and then your best friend might be super quiet, but you love that person and you really want to travel with them. But this is a TV show, and we need to hear people who talk. Express what they're doing and what they're seeing. So someone who's very vocal, someone who loves an adventure, who isn't afraid to get their hands dirty and suffer a little with very little sleep, grueling days, long days. I mean, like I said earlier, we filmed 12 one-hour episodes in about 22 days. It is a nonstop crazy race. And so your adrenaline will keep you going, but you have to be up for the challenge.
Okay.
Just fun. Have a good personality.
Okay. I'll tell my people who have asked, I'm going to say, you need a really good personality. Also hope they won't be offended by that.
Just have a good sense of humor.
And a good sense of humor.
Yeah, gift of gab.
Elise, it was a joy to speak with you. I really enjoyed this. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alex. I just want to say congratulations to the class of 2020.
Yes. Good job, guys. You did it.
I'm so sorry you're not going to be at Radio City, which is where I was when I graduated. But
no, I think there's going to be something in October, and I think there's an option for them to attend either virtually or in person. So I don't want to promise much, but I think that there's an option for them to do that, but it won't be till the fall. But
okay. Well, congratulations. Well deserved. I know FIT is not an easy school. I went to school Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. It was like a full-time job. It's not a party school. It wasn't a party school when I was there. I was also an RA, but it's hard work, and I'm very proud of all of you. And just follow your heart, follow your dreams.
I mean, No one could be a better advertisement for following their dreams than you. I mean, you really are quite good at what you do, obviously.
Thank
So,
you.
all right. Good night. Good night, everybody. Thanks again, Elise, and thanks to you for showing up. Everyone stay safe, and we'll see you. Actually, the next person we're going to be doing is Dana Esom Johnson, and I believe that will be June 1st. She is the star of Making It, and she is Etsy's trend specialist. So, on to the next one. Thanks, Elise. Have a
Thank you.
great night.
You too.
Be
Bye.
well. Bye.